Have it all. Have it all. Fucking stupid ass fight, man. Visual clarity. Oh, thank God. I got big money, bro. Let's go. That was worth the money. Oh, thank God. I'm not gonna even ID it. I don't give a fuck. I need the money. I don't care. I don't care. Fuck, I ID'd and I got hatred. I got double hatred. Easy, boy. God damn, I got the best patron. That's worth mad money now, bro. What the fuck? It was meant to be, bro. It was meant to be. Oh, fuck. Before we move on, guys, if you guys enjoyed the video you're about to watch, please consider leaving a like on the video and subscribing to the channel. This helps me out immensely with the YouTube algorithm. On top of that, I do stream on Twitch every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Right now, we're working on a very meme build, Arc Ignite, which is known to have abysmal single target, and surprisingly, I'm making it work pretty well. And it has stupid clear, and I'm giving it some pretty decent defenses too. So all around, it's actually a pretty and very fun build, and it's kind of interesting to see it, you know, go work. And obviously, I'm going, since it's a meme build, I'm literally throwing all the money that I can possibly throw at it. Nothing crazy like mirror worthy, but like, you know, 20x probably, thanks to the almighty jewel I got in the first clip. So you guys can watch that. Otherwise, if you have any questions, please go down below, you know, YouTube comments. I'll try to answer when I can. But the better spot is in the Discord, as my community is very active, and I try to be as active there as I can possibly be. And YouTube does hide comments from me sometimes, so keep that in note, especially if you reply. But yeah, guys, with that, let's move on. What is up, you guys? Kogi here again. I know I'm very long overdue on an update on the Rage Vortex. It's been pretty much done for now 2 weeks now, but I have been caught up with basically like family, vacations, and holiday shit, work, and then on top of that, I'm sick now. Whatever that's worth, because life is just the way it works. But regardless, it's not why you're here. The reason why you're here is because we have an update for the Rage Vortex character, and essentially it has been completely buffed in basically every single way, as the character did get cheaper and pretty much dishes the same amount of damage with a lot better defenses, thanks to the buff to determination. And you guys may have some questions as before, and you know, I haven't answered because I already fixed the issue, and it'll be kind of annoying responding to all your comments with the same exact answer. So here you go. Basically, before the patch came out, we had issues basically trying to find element immunity, since flasks were nerfed basically to the ground in terms of getting element immunity. We solved this by getting cannot be chilled boots, and then also getting Arctic armor, which gives you cannot be frozen. Everything else is easily removable using a Warcry node, that when you Warcry, you will remove an element, basically be bleed, especially poisons or the big one, and ignites and things like that. So basically any other element was easy, but when you're frozen, you can't Warcry, so that becomes an issue, and chilled happens too frequently in order to, you know, effectively remove it. So we needed a way to get freeze and chill immunity. Well, thanks to the patch now, we can still use our cannot be chilled boots with a little bit of movement speed, since we leap slam everywhere. That's kind of an easy fix. And now we get cannot be frozen through the Brine King Pantheon, which is amazing, because now we can drop Arctic armor. And on top of that, the only other ores we were using were, or not even ores, or heralds, was Herald of Fire and Herald of Purity. Now, luckily for me, these two heralds don't really do much. The reason why they're so good is because we can use the Circle of Anguish or Circle of Guilt ring with buff effect and either fizz damage or fire damage, since the build is fire converted to fizz. The fire one tends to beat it out because we do use gems like Immolate, and we do have a lot of added fire through our weapon and, you know, sometimes our jewelry or jewels. So the fire one is better, the Circle of Anguish ring, and is significantly cheaper, which is a good thing. So that's why I'm glad I picked that one. But no, taken, we didn't need Herald of Purity. We only really need one of them, and I picked Herald of Ash because one, it was more damage, and two, it has better clear because of thanks to the explosion effect, and when you have an MTX, it's fucking beautiful. So keep that in mind. What's up happening now is we only have 25% of our aura reserved, so we can slap in a determination. And thanks to that and our juicy amount of armor all over our gear, which we'll cover very quickly, we have a whopping over 90%, well, basically like steady 80% mitigation, and then through endurance chargers and you know, your granite flask, your Lion 4 for damage, you're easily hitting 90% mitigation, which is very, very nice. And we also have a Molten Show and Walk that, when everything's up, gives you basically a 4,000 HP armor buff. That's great. So basically, we have 90% mitigation to its fizz damage. We have a lot of max resistance thanks to the tree, the new node next to Marauder, which is very, very good. We also get corrupting blood immunity as well, so elements are pretty much non-existent in this build. Very, very nice. You know, we do have over 5k life. Only 5.2k because I did manage to slap in a 200 dexterity sword like a goddamn madman because fuck GG in its stat requirements. And Marauder is the slowest turtle and a fucking Pepega because he only gets strength, dude. Me strong, me bunk. That is literally Berserker in a nutshell. Point taken. The way we fit it in was basically by using I believe it's called a liquid motion jewel, which basically converts strength into dexterity. So fluid motion, not liquid motion. And, you know, it gives you basically around 60 to 70 dexterity, which is really neat. And then getting a lot of dexterity on your gear helps fit it in. The only issue is you also need intelligence. So finding a good mix of dexterity and intelligence is very nice. Well, not very nice. Very hard to do. And once you get it, it is very nice, as you can basically slap everything you want with no problems. But I will say the majority of your cost is really associated to getting those stats because, oh my god, is it annoying as shit. Right, thanks to God to veiled modifiers, you can craft things on your helmet like, you know, dexterity and intelligence in one shot. So that makes things a lot easier now in terms of, you know, those things. Otherwise, the tree pretty much is just a much simpler and smoother thing thanks to masteries. Now we also get recover 2% of our life when we ignite a non-ignited enemy. So that's basically an easy life recovery. And we also, of course, keep every time we Warcry, we recover 15% of our HP. And I love it so much because it means that we don't have to rely on a life pot too often, especially when it goes down during fights like Cyrus or something like that. But on top of that, it actually goes through the Maven's Beam. If you don't know, during the Maven fight, those little beams that are kind of moving back and forth during the last phase, they take away all your leech and regen, but it doesn't remove life pots and it doesn't remove instant recovery from Warcries. Don't know why. That means you kind of ignore those beams all the way, which is super nice in terms of like trivializing the fight, right? So Maven's kind of a joke of a fight, and this build did clear everything. And yeah, pretty much since it did clear everything, let's show you all the bosses that is completely murdered. And keep note that this is without a 400 PDPS weapon, which I had before. It has more dexterity instead, so I did lose, you know, a little bit of damage there and there. And I didn't even use a bottle of faith, even though clearly after the first clip I had enough money to buy a bottle of faith, which I did buy one. Vortex is a little douche for not giving me one. But basically, you don't need a bottle of faith and everything else, but everything else is pretty much, you know, attainable, and you should go after it. Swords, I got my sword for like around 70C, and a Bear's Girdle dropped down below 2 exalts. I'm not sure what it is now, but we'll review it when we get to the items. So without further ado, let's go over a boss montage and then get right into the gear, as I don't want the video to be way too long. See you guys right there. Suck a dick, bitch. Ooh. Not like. Look at that damage, bro. Holy shit. Let me in, bro. And this is why Warcry's healing me are so fucking important, because I have an unlimited life pot. Literally an unlimited life pot. People underestimate how fucking strong that shit is, dude. Oh, we got us in the bag. One death only. How you doing, bro? Easy. Bottle fit. Welcome back, guys, into the detailed version of the build guide. I apologize again for the raspy voice as I am sick, but without further ado, the character is called Let It Rip Baby because it looks like a goddamn Beyblade you're letting it rip out of your body. Kind of badass. I love the way look of it. And it does hold a little bit of the weapon effect of your weapon, which is kind of cool. But without further ado, now this character, as you can see, defenses has 73% casual armor, just walking around with nothing up. But you pop your Lion's Roar, and I have a Amethyst Flask because I have like shit Chaos Res. And the Chaos Res Blast has a very low, but it can be higher, increased armor. You pop those, you're sitting at 80%, and with a Molten Shell, you have a 5,000 HP Molten Shell for 82%. But without any of it up, your Molten Shell's around 3,000, something like that, right? 3,700, which is very neat. So, you know, you're looking at a 3,000 to almost 5,000, over 5,000 Molten Shell up, depending on how you press it with your flask and things like that. Don't worry too much on being effective with it. It's just on your walk, so it's always up when it can be, pretty much. Other than that, changes are pretty much determination is not in the build because we cannot be frozen, so we can drop, Arctic Armor was to drop Herald of Purity. So my orders are now just Herald of Ash, Determination, Precision, and Blood and Sand. This little note here goes a long way to save about 10% of your mana to fit in that level 6 Precision. On top of that, you get 90% conversion right here, which is amazing for easy 90% fire conversion. You get the remaining whenever you get the fizz damage converted on your glove, which is a veiled mod, and it costs 1 divine, and it needs an open prefix, by the way. Otherwise, we do have recover life on when you ignite a non-ignited enemy, which is really neat. Things like that. We have perma fortify now, so we don't need it as a 6 link, so our damage did go way up because fortify is a shit damage jewel, and it's very, very nice there. Thank you to the person again. I already told him thank you in the last video, but I had the Rampart, but this is just a way better node because it gives you +4. So this -3 is completely negated by this +4, and this thing wouldn't even affect us because if you get the -3, we're never at maximum, so this would have been a completely useless node. And the way that fortification works is actually per hit, you get 1 fortification regardless of how strong that hit was, I believe. Since this thing hits like a gajillion times a second when it spins like that, you basically hit 21 fortification in seconds, and it doesn't really matter, even though we hit like a truck anyway. But pretty much everything's the same. We have the max res here, so our max res is looking juicy. We have 79% fire, 77 cold, and lightning, and we have Corrupting Blood immunity as well. That pretty much solves that. The biggest bitch, of course, in this build is if you have a sword like this, is dexterity and getting enough intelligence to put increased crit damage and immolate into the build. It wouldn't be as hard if we didn't have to use increased crit damage, but since the nerfs to the gems, increased crit damage is by far our largest damage support now, instead of whatever it was before. I think it was Fortify. Fortify wasn't the largest, but it was it was the one that was there previously, and things like that. So basically, the build now kind of, since it revolves around a lot of armor, all the pieces you want like armor in it, at least some sort of armor. My chest piece, I managed to like craft this with essences, and I got an insane res and armor and life regen chest piece on an astral plate, craft the life on it, and boom bada bing, I 5-linked it for I 30% quality it using beast crafting. I don't think I have the mod right now, but it's the beast craft that gives you like 30% quality on a weapon or armor, and it corrupts it without basically ripping it, since Scourge and or a Volorb can do that. And then you can go into your Scourge here and use your fusings, and you have a higher chance of 6-linking it because it gives you a +1 or -1 regardless. It did get a bit unlucky, but we got it in the end. As you can just go to your bench, 4-link it for like 4 Volorbs, and then try again and see if you can get a double +1. And that's kind of how I did it. Very cheap, very nicely. These little, I basically hunted it as well, but at the end of the day, it didn't matter because I didn't go for crit or additional curse or anything like that. I just went for the pure armor. Ideally, you want maximum life on this bad boy, but I got regen, I'll take it. But yes, you can see like every single piece has a decent amount of armor. My helmet could be a lot better. Some crazy helmets I saw from my chat, like 500 to 900 armor with like maximum life and crazy amount of res was insane. And everything else has a decent amount of armor, but it can be improved. My chest piece though is kind of fat and thick, so keep that in mind. So let's go over the new leveling tree very, very quickly. Level 74. If you go to your skills, these are the leveling skills you can use. Basically, it's a carbon copy of the video I posted prior, about 2-3 weeks ago already. And here we have Smite, Ancestral Call, Chance to Bleed, and if you have a forward link, put increased crit strikes. Now, keep that in mind that these are what you need to use. Don't try to put Onslaught or something else, or not use Ancestral Call. You're going to hit like a wet noodle, and you're not going to clear. I've had people say that, and they weren't using these things. You have to use this because this gives you your clear, and this gives you the flat fizz damage that your weapon you know, most likely won't have when you're leveling, and you can use iron rings in order to boost it from, you know, the level 1 shop using some wisdom scrolls. But, you know, once you get your first ascendancy from lab, and you get Rage Vortex from doing the quest in Act 3 when you kill the guy in, the guy's called, I don't know if it's General Gravicius in Act 3, after you go basically the Ebony Barracks. And once you open the little butthole, and there, if you have a slow weapon, you can use Rage Vortex, Rage, Increased Crit, Melee Fizz. And if you have a higher weapon of 1.7 APS, we'll probably put APS here for you guys to see, then it's going to be Rage Vortex, Rage, Increased Crit, and Pulverize. The reason I do this is because Pulverize lowers your attack speed by quite a bit, so it can be very much a pain. And I did recommend getting a, what do you call it, a Scava, and it has a very slow attack speed. So if you do use a Scava, you're probably not going to want to use Pulverize. You're only really going to be able to use that once you get the Rite of Ruin Ascendancy, which basically gives you a shit ton of attack speed. But before we move into that, right, as you level up, you're getting much alive, get live, with Born Fight, a little bit of attack speed and fizz. Recommend getting versatility for the accuracy, movement speed, and, you know, dexterity and intelligence, which you're going to need. And during this point, you can pick up like Steel Skin for Walk or Molten Shell. Probably Molten Shell, I think you get it at level 1, in Act 1. And you can get your, you know, your totem, your ancestral protector. And you can go ahead and pick up a War Banner and Precision for accuracy to help you out along the way. But you are going to get Intimidating Cry early on, and Smite is a slam skill, so it can benefit from things like Intimidating Cry, which gives you double damage. So here, you know, you want to pick up Admonisher as soon as you can. It's the Warcry speed, and here you have Warcries have minimum 10 power. Now, the reason why this is so important, only if you are starting this character with absolutely nothing, either as a league starter or with basically no money or leveling uniques, is because of this node, which is the bread and butter of his build, called Warbringer. Now, Warbringer specifically states that Warcries give you 10 rage, which was Rage Vortex needs in order to do a lot of damage and cast the skill itself, if per 5 power if you have less than 25 rage. When you Warcry, the power of the Warcry is based on its power that it receives, and that power basically is based off, you know, normal monsters have 1 power, magic monsters have 2, rare have 10, and unique monsters have 20 power. And other players, if you're doing PvP, if you're a madman, you get 5 power per player. Basically, when you Warcry, depending on how many enemies are near that Warcry radius, you get that much power. But this shield gives you Warcries have infinite power. So what's up happening with this is that Warbringer, when you have less than 25 rage, will give you your maximum amount of rage that your build has. My build currently has 90 max rage, so when I Warcry, I'm guaranteed 90 max rage, which then I can spam my, you know, my Rage Vortex and do a crap load of damage with insane AoE. Now, the thing is, for that to work, you do need the shield in order to function, and it is a level 35 shield, you can see here. And these days, it's sitting around 25C because General Cry is abusing it. Not my fault. And note to that, even though it's a low-level shield early on, you know, it might not be that cheap. And obviously, you're not going to have 15C or 20, whatever the case may be. It was around 15C when this league started, when you first started the character. So, what's up happening is, if you pick up minimum power, minimum 10 power, you don't need the shield, and you get 20 rage no matter what when you Warcry, which is very, very neat. And it helps you sustain the build, and if you Warcry twice, you get 40 rage. And boom, bada bing, you Warcry a third time. The second node, which is super important, happens, where it says you sacrifice 10 rage if you have over 25 rage. I should say, at least I should say over 25. Makes it easier to understand. And what happens is, when you sacrifice 10 rage, when you have above 25 rage, you get 50% more damage for exerted attacks. For the last 4 seconds, for the next 4 seconds, basically. So basically, if I Warcry now, I have 90 rage. If I Warcry again, I sacrifice 10 for 80, so now I deal 50% more damage with any exerted attack, aka my Rage Vortex. So basically, the way to get the most amount of damage out of his build, really, is to do this. Put both your totems down, right? You want to Warcry first, then Warcry again, pop Berserk, Battle Mage Cry, and then go ham, pop all your flasks, and then use your Rage Vortex. A lot of buttons, but you get used to it. If you're wondering where my Berserk is, it's on the other button, and it's like a separate button on my mouse. You can figure out whatever is useful, because GGG does not give you a lot of buttons to work with, honestly. Just letting you know, this build is very button heavy. So if you like active builds like I do, it's gonna be fun for you. If you don't, then you're probably not gonna like it. I get bored with single button playstyle builds, so just giving you a warning. Some people don't like it, but most people have said this build is very, very strong. Others just don't like the playstyle, but it's, I've only seen like 1 or 2 people who said that. The majority of it really like the build, especially new players. So moving on from that little sidetrack of going over the first ascendancy, how important it is and why this little, you know, mastery is so important. You come down here, pick up Measured Fury, which gives you all your Warcries can exert 1 additional attack. is really neat because intimidating only gives you like 2 exerted attacks, which is kind of shit, and things like that. And you get, you don't have to pick up the remove elements, you know, when you war cry. I have it there. It's really nice. You can pick it up early if you want, but right now it's not really necessary. You can pick up Golem's Blood for life and the life mastery, which is insane, at 50. And then we come here for the sword node. It gives you a lot of crits and accuracy, and we pick up the insane crit chance with sword mastery. Even if it gives you the -20 crit multi, the amount of crit chance it gives you for 1 point is just so good. It's totally worth, you know, the investment, since we're already at 400 crit multi regardless of this thing. Now this does come and take, like, by this point you should be using a sword, and you should be using the recipe. If you don't know what it is, it's just a blacksmith, a whetstone, a rare or blue rustic sash or roan gives you a better weapon, and a sword that's white, and it will give you like increased fizz damage of a certain roll depending on the blue or rare rustic sash on your weapon. You can use that for the time being. So by this point you should be using a sword. You come here, you get your perma fortify from steadfast, from the mastery as well, get bloodless, get the 10% increase maximum life, and then we get the last war cry node, which is natural authority. Gives you a bunch of buff effects, and you know, we also get 20% increased damage for each time you war cried recently. So if you have intimidating inferno, it to be 40%, you know, damage. You can also level over enduring cry if you want. You can also not take this if you want, up to you. You know, it is what it is. If anything, I'll take it off because it's not really that necessary. That's pretty much, you know, the early game tree. Nothing too crazy. Feel free to pick up, you know, dexterity and intelligence as you see fit. Level 75 is things get a little bit, you know, crazier. By this point, we have the majority of our gear, you know, because most of this gear can be put on already level 75. If anything, all of them can. And you start going for the conversion, go for the fire mastery conversion. They go for Juggernaut and Termination mana efficiency to fit in precision and, you know, blood sand. If you have a dexterity sword, you can go ahead and pop fluid motion for the time being, especially if you have dexterity on your jewelry. Because I believe Scava doesn't have that big of a dexterity requirement, but if you need it for the Scava, you can go ahead and use this and just, you know, pop it in for now and then take it out whenever you get all your dexterity on your gear, which is kind of neat. You know, barbarism for the life and max res, and disemboweling for the insane amount of crit multi. I used to go around here, but this ended up being a lot cheaper. You know, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is 1, 2, 3. So say the 1 point little, you know, nice little upgrade. Right, based on that, since we're conversion, once you get this node, you can go ahead and pick up Lava Lash and get the Ignite node, which is insane for life recovery. That's pretty much it. So we also get the accuracy Eagle Eye. You know, you should always be paying attention to this accuracy number. Since Rage Vortex hits a lot, builds that hits often require a high amount of crit chance to hit, basically maxed out, because if you hit like 10 times a second and you only have a 98% chance to hit, you basically have 2% of your damage loss. While conversely, a slam build that hits like one big ass hit, it's highly unlikely you'll miss one hit, as a 98% chance to hit. So the accuracy doesn't become as important. But for hits like skills like this, like barrage or anything that shoots a gajillion times a second, you do really want your maxed out accuracy. So if this thing's like literally 97 or below, please start picking up Eagle Eye. Keep, you know, versatility if you need it. I did take it off. Keep all these accuracy nodes as you see fit whenever you can take it off. You know, don't be ashamed. I even have, you know, murder side jewels with accuracy and a little bit of blind to help out with that. So keep that in mind. It'll go a long way into doing that. I do not take blind into consideration in the build for accuracy. As you can see, I'm 100% accuracy regardless of the blind being up or not. This helps with elusive monsters, you know, but it's just nice to have, you know, make sure I'm always capped. Right, that's pretty much the gist of that. We get a little bit more life. Oh, and we also go up here and pick up Berserking for the maximum rage. You get Constitution, and at this point you should be already in your 3rd ascendancy. You pick up Craves of Slaughter, which is not that big of a deal, but it gives you 10 racks rage. But Rite of Ruin is a big boy, where it gives you cannot be stunned and a shit ton of attack damage, attack speed, and movement speed. And this basically gives you all the attack speed you have, even regardless if you have a shitty slow weapon. Ideally, a fast weapon is always better, of course. But once you get this Rite of Ruin, you should feel like a lot more zoomier and a lot less like a turtle, because a Berserker is a goddamn turtle, aka the Marauder is, right? So that's pretty much the gist of that. And then on level 93 is basically just the cluster jewels and whatever life nodes you're missing up here. And that's pretty much it. Now, the thing about the cluster jewel that I forgot to mention, I actually forgot to put in the tree as well, is that the cluster jewel is our only source of the leech. As you see here, Feed the Fury, Smite the Weak, and Feel the Fight. You don't need this 3rd node. The only ones you need is Feed the Fury and Feel the Fight. It can also be Dry the Destruction and Feel the Fight. And the reason behind this is because you just need 1 leech node and 1 mana leech node, because otherwise you would have to come down here and pick up life and mana leech for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points that are just wasted. The only good thing about this is the dexterity that it gives you. That is literally it, right? And then top of that we have Abyss Jewels, which is basically just accuracy, life, and whatever fizz damage, crit attack speed if you did a crit strike recently, or your fire damage to attacks. All that shit works. And this is the big boy, lead by example and mob mentality. Lead by example gives you perma onslaught when you work hard recently. Basically every time I work hard I get perma onslaught, which is very, very nice. And every time it goes down, you can pop into the work hard and it's back up. It's really good. Mob mentality works amazing with the shield Red Blade Banner because it gives you a 5% chance to get a random charge, power, endurance, or frenzy. For power, since we have infinite power, we're guaranteed to get a charge. So we see here, endurance, another endurance, another endurance. Wow. Another endurance. You want to give me something else? There's a power charge. You know, it keeps giving me endurance charges for some goddamn reason. Another power charge. Sometimes it wants to give you a frenzy. There it is. So, you know, if you want to be more realistic with your damage, you can put like one of each. But keep in mind that this is not taking into account double damage from your intimidating cry, so it's much higher than this, right? And things like that. So that pretty much covers that. I'll put this in the other tree over here. So basically, if you don't have that, you should be picking this up. And level 80, let me remove this jewel. You should not be having that. And we can remove some life view, which I would rather not do, but for the time being, it is what it is. We can remove that. We don't need that. And remove this one. Level 75, there we go again. But basically this helps a lot with your dexterity, and you need this leech. Unfortunately, completely forgot about that. Thank God I caught it. Now level 93, that pretty much covers everything. Is just the cluster jewel at the end of the day and whatever jewels you're missing. This is jewels. Level 93 is always jewels to cap out because you're not going to have it early on anyway. So back on to our gear. You know, Spiral Foil, you want a weapon. Your two options, obviously, like I said before, is like an internal sword, which is a deal base. Has more accuracy, less attack speed, or around the same attack speed, a lot less crit. Conversely, this has more damage, but shit ton more dexterity requirement and a lot more crit. They both work. You just have to fit it in with depending on your gear, and you can use fluid motion to your desire. You can see here, you know, I have intelligence there. This thing has all attributes like crazy. This thing has dexterity and intelligence. This ring has intelligence as an implicit. This damn boot has 47 dex. And on top of that, I do have fluid motion. I went a hell of a way to get a lot of fucking stats. Keep that in mind. So that is the, you know, job you're fighting. If you want a good base, buy a fractured base with a good amount of attack speed, and you want the sword attack speed to be around 1.7 or higher. Don't go lower than 1.65, but try to get 1.7 or higher. And what you want to do is on these jewels, just slap a bunch of shrieking essences of content. You can farm them easily using Haywork Hamlet over here. I can't open the fucking thing because of Baron. And basically each map gives you a guaranteed essence, and then you can pay, you know, 3C over here. I'm going to the map, please. Thank you. And you get essences on top of there, and that node on the atlas gives you a guaranteed upgraded essences. So all the essences you add to your map are upgraded. You have a very high chance of getting screaming and shriekings, and if you hold corrupting ones, you can corrupt all the purple ones here, and you have a good chance of getting hysteria horror and make some good money off of it as well. D&D is not on. Excuse me, sir. Sorry about that, sussy baka. We're gonna have to wait. But yes, other than that, moving on, we have life tap, faster attacks, and leap slam as our main movement. We don't have a lot of movement speed from our boots, but rage more than gives you enough, especially with, you know, Rite of Ruin and your Poma Onslaught. The reason behind this is because we have cannot be chilled crafted, and that's basically your immunity to chill, and you trust me, you want that always. Your helmet, here you want a armor helmet, ideally, kind of like a, how would I say, Eternal Burgnet, something like this. I do have one, I just didn't finish it. Something like this, a Royal Burgnet, which has a lot more armor. You can see just without any armor on it, it has 500 armor, a lot more than this one. So that's your ideal base with sacrifice 5% of rage because it gives you damage and AoE, and it is better than 40% increased damage. And then here you want life, dual res, and then your open suffix. Please craft dexterity and intelligence. You're gonna need it, trust me. Right? Ideally, a lot of armor, a lot of life res, and one open suffix for that. Here we have Ancestral War Chief, Ancestor Protector, Berserk, and multiple totems. Berserk is over in this button, like I said before. And here we have her two totems. The other one ideally be a Vol, but sometimes I swap back to this one because my Vol sometimes not always up for certain boss fights like Uber, Bizarro, and things like that, you know. So it's kind of neat to always have a consistent damage up. Right, and then our Red Blood Banner is guaranteed. Here we have Molten Shell on a walk. I don't pull Vol Molten Shell because I have way too many buttons already. And here I have Battle Mage Cry with Wave of Conviction. Gives you a crap load of crit chance, and then it will trigger Battle Mage Cry You see 6 exerted attacks. When I hit an enemy, it will trigger my Wave of Conviction, thus lowering their res by minus 15% fire. It's really, really good. Your chest piece. You know, like I said earlier, a lot of life, a lot of armor, a lot of res. Astral Plate being ideal. Here we have Anomalous Rage Vortex, which has the increased speed. Not necessary. I didn't buy one until way later. Pulverize, Fire Pen or Awaken Fire Pen if you can buy one. Immolate, get a level 21 if you can. Elemental damage attack skills, Awakened obviously if you can get it, and increased crit damage. Right? Now moving on to gloves. Here, ideally, you want high armor. Basically just a carbon copy of these gloves. High armor, a lot of accuracy, life, and res. Get attack speed if you can fit it in with an open prefix. These gloves, honestly, are not that expensive, surprisingly. As you can see here, I take it back. They're a lot expensive. Take the fucking res up. There you go, 20C. But that's without the res, and that's with attack speed. But once you add, that's a lot of accuracy. You can put like 250 to start off with. Right, a lot cheaper. But once you add, you know, the res, it does get more expensive. And then you also got to look for an open prefix, which can be a bit tough. As you can see here, just crafted open prefix. No open prefixes, and that's not even a good base. You don't want that. And that's where it gets really annoying. Like, this is actually perfect. This is a glove you want. You know, attack speed, accuracy, life, res, and then craft the conversion. That's pretty much it. You know, you don't really need another 6 mod, and that's a perfect glove for you right there. I bought this one for about, I think it was like pretty expensive. It was like 55C, but nothing like exalt worthy. But you know, just lower the values of accuracy or remove attack speed until you can buy something like this, right? Here we have Intimidating Cry, Combustion, Infernal Cry, and Second Wind. So we can cast each War Cry twice. Combustion is linked to Infernal Cry. So Infernal Cry, when is really good because if you put it on a pack, they explode, which is good for porcupines, which are a pain in the ass, and for exploding, you know, nice big packs of strong boxes and breach and things like that. They also make them take increased fire damage, obviously, like Intimidating Cry. But the neat thing is they have combust, so when you hit them, the first hit will do like this explosion or some shit that it does its own damage, and that can ignite and do combustion, and of course the crits and all that stuff. So it has a very high chance of, you know, applying minus 10% fire res. It's kind of neat. Not super consistent, but consistent enough for me to say, hey, I'll keep it. But yeah, you can also fuck around with putting combustion on your Wave of Conviction over here and move Molten Show as a main link down here if you so desire. It's up to you. For your boots, life, res, dexterity, open prefix, craft, cannot be chilled, and movement speed. Here we have Determination, Precision, Blood and Sand, and Herald of Ash is your aura setup. Rings, Circle of Anguish. Get double damage of fire damage with buff effect. Your implicits go for global accuracy and or int or dexterity, whichever you need. Other ring. Here you want an Assassin's Mark ring, whatever res you need. With life and int. This is going to be a little bit expensive. You know, you can put Assassin's Mark on your Battle Mage Cry, right? If you so desire. So it triggers both a Wave of Conviction and your Assassin's Mark. That's what I did leveling up. And you want an open prefix so you can put War Cries can add exert travel skill, so your leap slam doesn't take your things. If you don't have that, you're gonna have to give up like the damage one over here, right? And instead you're gonna have to go for something like this. You're gonna remove this one and you're gonna go with where is it? Yeah, right here. Exert attacks deal 20% increased damage, and War Cries can add exert travel skills. You will go for that one. You know, that'd be kind of like what you would be doing, right? I don't like it because obviously you lose the damage, but you know, it's not that bad, and it saves you a prefix on your ring. You can probably put like minus mana cost if that's, you know, better your hits. And that's pretty much that. As your AMI is going to be current multi, life of res if you can fit it in. I crafted this by myself, luckily. Don't ask me how. But basically you want a shit ton of dex and ints, fizz, and or crit multi, ideally crit multi over the fizz. Life, and then after that, if you get res or armor, it's a big plus. And then you're gonna anoint Pantheon, which gives you an insane amount of buff effects to your totems, which basically is like another separate like 8th link or some shit. It's ridiculous. And then your belt's gonna be a Bear's Girdle. Until then, you can go ahead and use like a Stygian Vise, like something like this with res, wed, and pop in another abyssal jewel there with life and, you know, accuracy, whatever you need, and some damage. As for your flask, you want a Divine Life Flask with Surgeons with Flask Charge or Dual Crit, because you're going to get a lot of these charges back, with Immunity to Bleed. A Sulfur Flask with Reduced Effective Curses, or a Bottle of Faith. Diamond Flask, this is very important, with ideally chance to get a frenzy charge, chance to get a flask charge when you deal critical strike, with crit chance during flask effect, and you want to slap these yellow Enkindling Orbs for increased effect. Gives you a fuckload of crit. Look at this shit. 33% crit. Boom. 49 pop battle mage cry, and I'm at 52%. Just like that. Insane. Lion's Roar for obviously armor and more damage. And then Amethyst Flask with increased armor and, of course, chance to get a frenzy charge. I keep saying frenzy. Flash charge when you deal a crit. As your Bandit, help Alira for, your res and your crit multi. You're gonna fucking need that shit. And for your Pantheon, obviously, Brine King and go for Shikari. I didn't even get the reduced chaos damage taken. I'm a goddamn Papega. Please take the bottom one. It helps a lot. Especially when you don't have a lot of chaos res. And yeah, just here, all you need is Cannot Be Frozen from Latanis the Black Prayer. You can Google wherever the fuck he is. I don't remember. And yeah, boys. That wasn't too long, but it probably was. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Let's go into the outro. And with that, guys, that pretty much wraps up everything. Of course, if you have any questions, as per usual, Discord, YouTube comments. And I hope you guys enjoyed. And I apologize again for the delay, but life, it is what it is. I still have a crap ton of builds out there. I still need to give my editor some new builds to edit. So, hopefully we get the ball rolling again as things start to, I don't want to say start to slow down. It wasn't really like a pickup for a point, but, just happened that everything hit back to back. And it shouldn't be so bad going forward. So I really want to get all these builds out. But without further, delay, thank you guys so much for watching. And I'll see you in the next informative build guide or detailed video. Yeah. Hope you have a good one.